Welcome once again. You know what it is. It's the senior basketball analyst. I did a review of the film Straight Outta Compton, which, as I said before, I think was great, entertaining, somewhat informative. I thought, and I especially thought it was great what they did, depicting the violence that the government perpetrates against Black people. Um, I did that review, and fresh, right off, hot off the presses. And I was waiting for something like this because I check for Dee Barnes every now and then, and I especially wanted to check to see what she thought about this film, given that um, she knows everybody in this movie fairly well, and also, moreover, she was left out of it. And I wanted to see, what she thought of it, what her comments were, because um, it's always good, especially given that hip hop media has very, very few um, women in it. I wanted to see what a pioneer of hip hop media and someone that knows these people thought of the film, and I was checking for this, and we finally got it. Gawker actually has a piece up entitled "Here's What's Missing from Straight Outta Compton: Me and the Other Women Dr. Dre Beat Up." Uh, that's a great title for it, and she does a very good job of what I feel is an objective portrayal of what should have been in the movie and what was left out, and her opinions on that. And I thought, not only are they valid opinions, I thought they were I thought they're informative opinions, and I think anybody that sees the movie should see this, because this is who I want to hear from. I don't really care what people outside of the community think about Straight Outta Compton. You go see it, don't go see it. I don't really care. But we do care what people inside the community think, and we especially care what people who are hip hop, rap, journalistic pioneers think. And that's who Dee Barnes is. And I didn't realize actually how well she knew these people. She actually worked with Dr. Dre and worked with Ruthless Records. I didn't know that as an artist. I was unaware of that. And we got to keep in mind what this is. When I was growing up, there was no internet. When all this was going on, there was no internet. So anything that you didn't, you know, pick up through, a lot of times album lyrics and thing in the few publications that were going around at the time, you didn't know. You had no way of knowing it. Like the whole Dee Barnes episode was a lot of what you feel like was myth, because you weren't sure what was true and what isn't. It wasn't one of those things where you didn't believe it because, I don't believe Dre would hit a woman. Of course Dre would hit a woman. That's what he does. He beats women. That's the kind of dude he is. But you weren't sure exactly how it happened. Because, like, for example, I've read accounts that, current Backspin Radio host Ed Lover, whose work I really like, I've read that Ed Lover just stood there while the whole thing happened and didn't do anything. And that's disappointing, because it's always disappointing when you hear when a woman is being assaulted and men don't do anything. It's always disappointing. I've heard accounts that say that. But one of those things, again, I don't know if it's true or not. For all I know, Ed Lover was get a drink at the bar. This all popped off on the other side of the club, and he wasn't even aware of it. He walked over and it was over already, for all I know. Who knows, right? Well, with that said, to get into her account of it, actually, let me say one more thing about this too. This is a movie, to be clear, right? This is entertainment. This is not a documentary. This is not meant to portray events exactly as they happened. And I'll give you a prime example. The whole death row scene where Tupac is in this room recording California Love, and then Dre walks into this room, and then dudes in his underwear, people are waving guns around and all of this nonsense, and he blows up his shug because this is not a work environment, and that's one of the things that I was really happy about, the way that they portrayed the members of NWA. Man, these are hard-working dudes, man. These guys put in serious long hours into their craft, and it shows. It shows by how much, by the way, of that stuff holds up. Like, you can listen to No Vaseline today, and it's like, man, that's some of the hardest stuff going, man. That's harder than anything out right now. Like, you listen to that stuff, and it holds up. This is how innovative and how great these guys were. But to get back to the subject, If you notice, the only Death Row member that appears on a regular basis is Snoop. And I think he appears in 2 scenes. Tupac has 1 scene. The Dog Pound are completely absent. So, you know, as Dee Barnes points out in her review, Arabian Prince, completely absent. Arabian Prince is one of the founding members of NWA. He's in 1 scene. And to be honest, I can't even remember when I saw him. Like, I noticed it during the movie. I was like, man, they left Arabian Prince basically completely out of this. But that just goes to show you who's controlling this and who is really in charge. It's Ice Cube. And Ice Cube basically started the story from when he joined the group. Right or wrong. And by the way, you know, I've already talked about the brilliance of Ice Cube as a rapper and as a writer. He's a brilliant writer. Whether you're talking about films, music, whatever, he's brilliant. And I've been entertained by so much of his work and influenced by a lot of it because I've consumed so much of it. But I'm just pointing out there's a lot of people that you could have put in this 2.5. This movie's too long anyway. It's 2.5 hours. To me, they should have just done 3 split in half. That's my opinion. Other people probably think that would have somehow diluted the continuity or something like that, whatever. But there's a lot of things missing from this movie. Like Dee Barnes is like, what happened to JJ Fad? I say, JJ Fad, that's not what the movie's about, man. That it really isn't. The Bone Thugs could have easily been in this movie. And I thought it was a nice homage to them to have, whether this happened or not. Again, I would wager to say it didn't happen like this. But seeing where DJ Yella puts the tape, the Bone Thugs demo, on the table in front of Eazy's bed, Eazy's what turned out to be Eazy's deathbed. That's a very powerful scene. And for young kids growing up, maybe you don't know who Bone Thugs are. Bone Thugs were I wasn't into them as a group, but they turned out to be a very successful group. Hey, young kids, man, you may want to go back and check their music out. You might like it. So that was very powerful. But again, Bone Thugs completely absent from the movie. So to me, when you have, and I'm just naming notable figures off the top of my head that were missing as I'm saying it to you. I ain't writing this down. Daz, that nigga Daz, missing. Corrupt, missing, absent from the movie. Snoop has sold tens of millions of albums. He's the crowning jewel of the Death Row label. 2 scenes. Arabian Prince, 1 scene. That's not what the movie was about. We have to, at some point, you have to just face it and say that's not what the movie was about. But to Dee Barnes' central point, to not address what happened between NWA and Dee Barnes, it's messed up. It's messed up, man. It's messed up. And here's the thing. This is another, I'm not going to sit around and be a dummy and start equating rap lyrics with real life in terms of well, in this song, Ren said this, and that goes along with the misogyny. And no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That's a dumb thing to connect. That's not worth trying to connect that. Let's just talk about who did what and when. Let's just talk about that. For those of you that don't know, the story, in the short version of the story, and I encourage you, go and look up accounts of this. Go to Gawker Media and read Dee Barnes' account of it, because that jives with what I knew about the story, reading about it in the internet age. Dee Barnes did this show called Pump It Up. And by the way, I used to watch Pump It Up growing up, because there weren't that many hip hop shows at all anyway. So if there was one, you at least tried to check it out. And I used to watch Pump It Up. I remember when Pump It Up disappeared off the TV. And I was like, where'd Pump It Up go? I turn on TV, it's not there anymore. Too bad they canceled it, right? You know, y'all are watching it. We don't care what y'all watch, right? So anyway, I used to watch the Pump It Up. Dee Barnes did an interview with NWA. And NWA said all of this stuff about Ice Cube And that didn't air. A lot of it didn't air, by the way, because the things I heard were not like the things that were reported from people on the scene later about Ice Cube and just various vulgar, ridiculous things. And after that, she interviewed Ice Cube. And I believe Dee when she's saying she's trying to play it straight because she knows all these guys. These guys, she considers these people all friends of hers. She has worked with them. So it doesn't make any sense that Dee is trying to play one against the other. Her version of the story does make sense. After Ice Cube makes some comments about y'all, and it's very similar to the way he closes Jacket for Beats. He says something about how you marks 100 miles in running, something like that, right? He closes with that. That airs. And at the time, according to Dee Barnes, at the time, she told everybody on the show, and she's an on-air personality. It's not her show. She has no editorial say-so here, as clearly as this points out. She says, hey, man, I don't think we should air this way because in her words, she said she was afraid they were going to start shooting each other. She was like, she didn't think anybody was going to come after her. Why would they? Only a jerk and a coward and a punk suck a duck type dude would do something like that. Dr. Dre, right? So after this airs, apparently at this club, Dre sees Dee Barnes, probably has some drinks in him, and he beats her up real bad. Beats her up bad. Again, no idea why there's men all around and they see a dude, they see a star, hip hop DJ beating up a well-known female hip hop journalist, and he just let him do it. I can't fathom why that happened. I believe it happened, but I don't understand the mentality of men that allow that. I just don't allow stuff like that. I've never seen a woman get beat up by a man because I don't allow stuff like that around me. I've never seen it. Never seen it. So this all goes on, and the thing the reason it should have been in the movie, not because of some overarching argument about domestic violence, because this wasn't a domestic incident. This is a dude beating up a woman. This is actually more ridiculous, actually, because these people, it's crazy. It's crazy. It'd be like if you went to work and just punched a coworker. That's basically what this was. This is a coworker. It's not about that. It's not about it making some larger point. The reason it should have been in a movie is because it was a central event to the Ice Cube NWA hip hop battle. It was central to it because the only thing prior to this, there was some slick talk going back and forth. It would be like one line and always into something. Dre has the line that I'm sure Ren wrote, but Dre has a line where he said, it's like 1, 2, 3. Then I see a nigga hop in the fence and it was Ren on the motherfucking trigger. He hopped in the Benz and said, Dre, I was speaking to your bitch O'Shea. Ice Cube had the line, the little line in Jacket for Beats, about having you marks 100 miles and running. Until all of this Dee Barnes stuff, that was when Ice Cube dropped No Vaseline, and that's when they had the thing where the ruthless guys tried to jump on the lynch mob guys. By the way, T-Bone and all, I think T-Bone be like standing in the background sometimes. All them lynch mob dudes are all missing from this movie, basically. They're extras in the background. They're standing around while Ice Cube's doing stuff. So those are more people that this is just, again, off the top of my head, people that are missing from the movie. And again, that's why I don't think people being missing, I don't think that is because of misogyny, and I don't think it's an attempt to erase women from the history. I think that anything that was not central to what was going on with Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, and Eazy-E was completely eliminated if they could do it, because they were running out of time. That's what I think. DJ Yella is comic relief. He's just standing around all the time. Ren basically is not featured at all. He's just in all the scenes because he was there for all of it. And I said that during my original review. The fact that Ren had almost no role in this movie is borderline criminal in terms of, filmmaking integrity, if you will, for lack of a better expression. So if I could do one thing, I would have increased Ren's role, because we didn't learn anything new about him. And he is, again, one of the central figures. He wrote Eazy-E's debut album almost by himself. How is he not, in my opinion, his verses were better than Ice Cube's in NWA on NWA's first album. And he's the only one Cube is on. Cube, and a lot of people point this out, Cube's post NWA work is far better than his NWA stuff. And which goes to, that stands to reason. He grew up, he got better. But to get back to what Dee is saying, one of the things that jumped out to me about what Dee Barnes said, that event, and referring to Dre beating her all the way into the women's bathroom at this club, and again, all the men standing around and watching, that event isn't depicted in Straight Outta Compton, but I don't think it should have been either. The truth is too ugly for a general audience. I didn't want to see a depiction of me getting beat up, just like I didn't want to see a depiction of Dr. Dre beating up Miss Chalet, also absent from the film, his one-time girlfriend, who recently summed up their relationship this way: "I was just a quiet girlfriend who got beat on, and told to sit down and shut up." Now, a lot of people make wisecracks about Dre. I might as well make one, because when I hear these things, I always think, you could have beat up Jerry Heller and Easy and Suge Knight for ripping you off. Especially Suge. Could have beat up Suge. Won't beat up Suge? Dre? It's disappointing. It doesn't see, and I say they're wisecracks, and it's silly because, well, if he had went and physically attacked Suge and knocked him out like that one cat did, if he had done that, then would that justify him beating up all these women? No. So it's a wisecrack, and it's just a cheap shot, really. But I do think that. I always think, man, when all these other people were stealing from you, you didn't beat on them, but you beat on the women that love you. It's very, very disappointing, man. It's very disappointing. And it makes you wonder what Dre saw in his home growing up, that he behaves this way, because he just beats on women that are close to him all the time. Regardless, I didn't think Miss Chalet, a lot of the stuff, now Miss Chalet did record with Ruthless, but a lot of the Miss Chalet like drama and back and forth stuff happened on Death Row, because, as Daz will point out whenever you ask him, Miss Chalet has a baby with Suge as well. So she has children. She has at least one child by both Dr. Dre and Suge Knight. But none of the Death Row people are in the, like, if I'll tell you like this, when that incident, the incident or incidents that Tupac scene is supposed to depict, where Dre walks into the other room, man, Daz and Corrupt had to be there. And I was looking for him, and I couldn't point to anybody and say it was either one of them. So if they're not in the movie, well, it's easy to eliminate Miss Chalet then. Why not? Eliminate her. Did she take her out the movie too? That's why I say I don't think this is all, but I do think that it is about trying to not depict Dr. Dre as a serial woman beater. And what I would also say is, yeah, D, you're right. Why would they want to do that in a movie? It's not a documentary. That's for a general audience. I don't know if that adds to the film. Does it? Does it add to the movie? What does it add? What does it tell you? And what does it add? How does it add entertainment value to have scenes where Dr. Dre comes home drunk and then beats on Miss Chalet? I don't think it does. I don't think it does at all. That's not to say we should know about it, and that's not to say we should let him off the hook. even though the government did, because, you know, beating on women anyway, the United States does not care about. Beating on black women is borderline encouraged. Like, it just does, nobody cares about it. Nobody cares. Look, they lynched Sandra Bland and nothing. Everybody's fine with it, right? To keep quoting Dee Barnes, but what should have been addressed is that it occurred when I was sitting there in the theater and the movie's timeline skipped by my attack without a glance. I was like, what happened? Like many of the women that knew and worked with NWA, I found myself a casualty of Straight Outta Compton's revisionist history. Very similar to my thoughts. In fact, that is what I think, actually. I don't think it's because they're women, but they did erase all of it, and we shouldn't let them off the hook. By the way, DJ Pooh is one of the people that Dee worked with too. DJ Pooh, who co-wrote Friday. We see a scene with Cube writing Friday by Felicia. DJ Pooh, absent. And see, this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of central figures. DJ Pooh is a central figure to the Ice Cube family tree and legacy. You know, if you see at the end of every Friday film based on characters created by Ice Cube and DJ Pooh is central to all this. Not there. There is one thing that I did learn here, and there's a picture of it. Go to Gawker Media. I encourage you, go to Gawker Media, read the Dee Barnes piece. Gary Gray, the director of this film, worked on Pump It Up. He actually recorded the scene. He actually recorded the interview with Ice Cube. Dee has a picture of him up with a Pump It Up shirt on and a camera. He was a cameraman back then. Here's the thing, guys. Man, you know what? Come on, Gary Gray. Come on, man. Come on, man. You know what? Some other guy that has nothing to do with it directs the NWA film. I let it go. Don't think about it again. But man, after seeing that, man, you look like a grade A chump sucker. You really do, man. You really do. And here's the thing, man. If you tell Cube and Dre that you want to address this issue and they tell you that they'll get another director, then you know what? Don't be a sellout and let them get another director. I could not be more disappointed in the brother. Not every time from here on out, when I think of his name, I'm going to remember him as the guy that was a central figure in Dee Barnes get beat up by Dr. Dre and then erase the whole incident from the movie. I couldn't be more disappointed by that. Couldn't be more disappointed. So, with that said, what I encourage you to do is, and as I said earlier, if as a woman, any woman that wants to go and say, you know what, these guys are a bunch of woman-beating, misogynist pieces of garbage. I don't like the things they say. I'm not supporting this movie. I don't want to see it. I saw the movie. I don't like how they erased JJ Fad from the history books, and they want to erase Yo-Yo and by the way, Yo-Yo, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, not in the movie. Del the Funky Homo Sapien is related to Ice Cube. I believe Yo-Yo is too. Not in the movie. Again, central figures to street knowledge. Del the Funky Homo Sapien is rapping to this day. Not in the movie. Just pointing out more people that aren't in the movie. But anyway, if you think as a woman that this stuff is all unacceptable, I'm not going to argue with you at all. Not a bit. Because these are serious issues that we're dealing with. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you shouldn't be mad about something that affects you and people like you. Not going to do that. All I'm saying is I think that in terms of isolating this movie for what I think it was supposed to be doing, in terms of just telling this story of how these guys came together, what they were facing in terms of being attacked by the government, and what their lasting legacy is, I don't think that NWA's lyrics are about misogyny overall. And I don't think that's the lasting legacy. A lot of the songs that Dee Barnes cites in terms of their horribly misogynistic lyrics, I may have listened to those songs one time 30 years ago, maybe, and then never listened to them again 25 years ago, whatever, and then never listened to them again, or listened to part of them and never listened to them again. One of them was on an NWA album, and I didn't remember the title. I used to listen to this stuff because those weren't the songs that resonated with me, so I just ignored them. Again, I may be diminishing them because this stuff doesn't resonate with me. But whenever I hear people talk about NWA, you know what songs they reference. They reference Straight Outta Compton, Fuck the Police, 100 Miles and Running. These are the songs, Express Yourself, Always Into Something. These are the songs that you heard over and over again, and you continue to hear to this day. All these others, like it's one of the songs, I think it's called a Bitch is a Bitch or something like that. I literally, the lyrics that she cited, I couldn't remember the name of that song and didn't remember the lyrics. Then I played it. I went and played it, and it was like, I don't remember this. Like, I just don't remember it because I don't think, and I think that, and that's why I say I legitimately think that's not really what that's not what their group was about, and that's not the legacy of their group. Those are things they said. If you want to hold them accountable, by all means hold them accountable, but that's not what their group was about. It really wasn't. That's why people don't talk about that stuff that much, because that's not what resonated with anybody. And then to wrap it up, support Dee Barnes. Dee Barnes does good work. She's a hip hop pioneer. Again, read her piece, comment on Gawker. Her story is very compelling, and it should have been in the movie. And man, Gary Gray, again, I just shake my head, brother. I shake my head, man, because you knew when you did that you were wrong. You knew you were wrong, brother. And you know that.